this week I actually finished sending out the email campaigns to my waitlisters. So I completely exhausted all the lists, sent out all the emails that I need, try and tested, A/B tested a bunch of headlines, the email bodies, and stuff like that. I just finished that this week. And so far, I've got about 2 signups. All right. At least 2 people who have actually used the coupon code for the early testing. I think I've had a lot of people who were replying, who were outside of the United States and Canada. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to process these users into the application because, again, the laws in those respective countries, especially Europe, are just much more. It's less lenient as opposed to the United States and Canada. So, which is kind of unfortunate because I've had one who was really eager to try the application, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get them into the application. Anyway, that's about that. So at least with the waitlist, I was able to convert 2 users in to actually try out the coupon code, try out the application. I haven't got any of the feedback, but that's fine. We can get that later on. The thing is, I wasn't really I was picking a few batches every single week, and no, every single day, because I changed my strategy. I didn't want to just fully send out an email campaign because for the most part I wasn't really sure what to do with the list. And what I'm finding now is that most people who get onto this, I guess, development journey, they don't actually use a waitlist. Instead, they push the application to the App Store directly, and then they generate the community from there. I think most people don't use a waitlist, is what I'm saying. And I think, again, from the learnings from last week, one of the biggest mistakes of waitlisting application is actually not keeping in contact your waitlisters about the current state of the application. So after going through the book Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson, he even talks about this, is when you create a list of emails. What he did for his book, I think he said there that he gathered the list of people who were interested in the book, the June 100, and then every single week he would send them a free copy of the book, and so that it feels like the community is part of building that book, sort of thing. So what he's actually doing here is called email nurturing, and which is something I just didn't do, and I wasn't able to implement throughout the whole 9 months. So I guess that's kind of. The thing is, I'm still keeping the waitlist as a way to send the product announcements and weekly announcements, stuff like that, for any of the new features. Because again, you can actually just do this. You can actually just send them a bunch of emails until they all start to unsubscribe. So again, I'm kind of new into this game. I don't know the email marketing scene. So out of all the, I guess you can say, a huge list I've got, after 9 months, I've had 2 people. I've had, I think, I could say a good amount, but it's definitely not 50% who click on the email, the link at least. Which is fine, because that's kind of how it works. It's like if you don't send them an weekly email, they kind of just forget about you, and then the whole list becomes stale. So I don't expect people to convert easily. So my expectation was really low because I didn't do it the proper way. So yes, typically what you would do is that you send them a weekly updates, and then on that final day, let's say you have your test day, that's when you employ your offer or sales, what they call it. In this case, I'm not really selling anything. I'm offering a free access to the application so that I can get the early testimonials in, I can get the early reviews in, stuff like that. What I'm really hoping is to get the first few people to use it, so I can start the momentum rolling in. Again, I am kind of new to this. I don't really know what I'm doing. My strategy at least is to focus on the one-to-one outreach for the warm traffic, and that is the email whitelist I've gotten. So I just finished the one-to-one outreach for this week, and so my strategy next is employ something called a one-to-many outreach. So the one-to-many outreach is pretty straightforward. It's essentially targeting the word. So let's say you have an avatar now, or a persona that you want to target. So essentially, the one-to-many approach is when you target them specifically on where this persona kind of hangs around. So you target the brands, you target the influencers, you target the forums that they go to, the newsletters that they go to. It could be in the forums, social channels, it could be on the websites, it could be on specific keywords, or if you're doing SEOs. But I'm not going to do it now because I think that's a bit more advanced. My strategy is to start with the content marketing. I think they call it the content marketing. And yeah, so I think this should be easy because this is what I initially did for the AI call assistant, as I literally just started posting things on the AI call assistant, and then people essentially started signing up for the waitlist, and even doing like a soft launch on sites like ProductCon or micro, I think I'd call it tiny launch or something like that. I forgot the name of it. But there are alternatives to ProductCon that you can do, or you can use essentially to first release, I guess, the first beta testing of your application. Like, I'm not gonna do it for now for this one. My goal is to actually design my strategy. So what I'm currently employing now is, because it's the easiest, is Twitter. I'm currently using YouTube, TikTok, because those are the easiest ones. The short forms are much easier than the long form. I guess you can kind of use this platform now as a way to advertise it, but I don't necessarily want to come across as salesy. I think that's not the point of this channel. This channel is just about documenting how it's done and how I'm going about these things. The only issue for me is that, yeah, like, I'm kind of new, so I don't really know what to do. So I'm taking, my approach here is to take it step by step. And so I just finished the one-to-one outreach. My goal now is to focus on still the same angle, warm outreach, the warm traffic, but using the one-to-many approach, which is content creation. Because I was unable to process users from Europe, I wasn't able to get people outside of the United States. Essentially, I started looking outside of Twilio. So I'm using Twilio as the platform for hosting all the numbers. So I started looking into Telnix. Telnix is essentially a alternative to Twilio, and the great thing about Telnix, other than being more affordable, and that's Telnix actually supports these countries. But I haven't actually checked with their regulations, especially for these countries, because that's my biggest worry, is how, as much as possible, I want to make the experience as smooth as possible without having to deal with the ID verification, stuff like that. It's just simply not worth it at this current stage of the application. But they do have something called a Telnix AI accelerator. I just want to share that to people. So maybe if you're like building something similar to what I'm doing now, or if you have a project that you are thinking of using Twilio, maybe you could use Telnix. I think they got something going on right now where they can give you free credits to use this, basically to use their platform. So check them out. I've actually signed up. The thing that I'm like a bit what I'm hesitant is that is that so once you sign up, they send you a follow-up email to talk to you more about what you're building, essentially. And I think there's an interview process. What I'm a little bit more hesitant here is, number one, I'm very excited, but number two is that they're asking for users. So I'm currently on 2 users. So I still need to do more. Again, my issue is, I think really this week is all about this week I didn't actually focus solely on the marketing. Again, that's I'm on a good spot right now. Because I can actually accept people and actually use the application, and they can then start paying. But at least what I'm dealing with now, a good problem to have, which is traffic. That's what I am dealing with. And so yeah, let's see what happens with the new strategy I'm employing for starting this week, and also starting with the next couple months. So the one-to-many approach using content marketing. Let's see how it happens. I started looking into other people's projects as well, and learning just from these guys on Twitter as well. I think they're also doing something similar where they're documenting their progress. Really, really, really cool. I think this is cool to see how other people are also doing it and documenting their approach to marketing. Because again, this is kind of like a new area for me, and and I think they use something called a UGC. I don't know what that means. I think UGC, I know that in terms of AI, but I'm not sure what that really means. I think user-generated content. Okay, user-generated content. Yeah, fair enough. And so I think most people are doing here on, I'll just showcase that on Twitter. They're using something called a UGC, and essentially using short-form content platforms like TikTok. And then these creators would then start making content about their application. The thing that, the difference here between my application and their application is that I'm actually beta testing. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if they will take this, if the UGC approach will be effective here. But let's see what happens. But because I haven't really thought about this, but I think it's just an interesting approach, because usually I would prefer to do it myself initially, and then before getting other people to do it. But anyway, I don't. So now I've got the reliability. Now I got the reliability aspect solved. Great. So now my focus is on the offline first approach. So the offline first approach, essentially, my goal for this one, at least for the project goal for this, is to make sure that the application is as decoupled from the server as possible. So I'm not talking about inserting a custom models here. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about having its own on-device transcription service, translation, whatever that is. I'm not talking about that now. I'm talking about the locally caching server data directly on the device. That's something very common on mobile development that I just wasn't simply able to implement when building this application. Because again, it's not really that difficult. Because I think the more difficult aspect is connecting these services together and making sure that you get the proper workflow working together with the proper user experience on how the application should work. So okay, so this is my project for this week, and so this one, if you know, because I'm kind of new into mobile development, so I'm literally just grappling from all sides of the angle. It's either that's on Swift or Android development. So on Android, there's something called a remote mediator pattern, so where you essentially have a local caching, local database on your device, and you have your server, and what it's meant to do is to save all the server data locally, so that you can access the application on offline. Great explanation. But what this does do as well is handle any local changes, making sure that the data stored locally is also in sync with the server, making sure that we have a config resolution with the most updated data, which what do we use, what kind of data we're using. Let me guess, this is currently what I'm using. So this is a simple diagram, and as you can see, I'm also using something called I'm using a dead letter queue kind of thing, but you're just using the database. So what this does is that the dead letter queue you make the changes directly on the local database, and then you start syncing that with the server. And if there's no network, you pass all the operations onto this dead letter queue. So once you're connected, then you process each of these. So I built I guess you can call it the first iteration of it. So I've got plenty of data that needs to then use the same design pattern. So currently at least for this week, so at least for this day at least, because I can easily transform the entire application now. So I just finished building the one for the contacts pages. The contacts is, I don't think the contact should really just be saved directly on the device, not on the web application. But it does make it useful if you have multiple devices that you want to be unsynced. Yeah, so also the other one for this week is just improving the AI call assistant. So this is still in progress. I started designing this, and I've got so far is just the rough design on how it should work, and something like this, kind of like a shit design, but anyway, that's not the point. So right now the issues with the AI call assistant is that when your device is on lock mode, and then when, let's say, you weren't able to answer the call directly, it is automatically then sent to your AI call assistant. But the issue here is that the current application isn't sending a notifications to your device. And from what I've read, you can actually use local notification. You can now create local push notifications directly on Swift without having to use Firebase. I think it's called notifications mutable remote notifications. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that it should send you a notifications when the device is turned off, especially when the call has been transferred directly to your AI call assistant, and it should then send you the progress. Right now, the other issue is that when you open the application, you weren't able to retrieve all of the current calls that are happening live with your AI call assistant. So right now, what I've got is that when you have the application directly open, and it's already transferred directly on your device. But there's no way of actually retrieving them when your device is closed. That makes sense. So that's what I'm working on this week, which should just be easy. Couple of testing it's here and there, but that should be fine. Other than that, that's really it for this week.